A somber and powerful rendition of "O Canada," the country united after an attack on Parliament, showing that they are in unison. Hello everyone, I'm Michelle Franzen in New York. Canada's leaders defiant today and vowing that the nation will be vigilant and will not run scared in the wake of that deadly shooting of a guard outside Parliament. And the sergeant at arms being hailed as a hero, releasing this statement just a few minutes ago. I am very touched by the attention directed at me following yesterday's events. However, I have the support of a remarkable security team that is committed to ensuring the safety of members, employees, and visitors to the Hill. Yesterday, during extraordinary circumstances, security personnel demonstrated professionalism and courage. I am grateful and proud to be part of this team. Sergeant-at-Arms Vickers went on to say, on behalf of all members of the House of Commons Security Services team, I would like to extend our deepest condolences to the family of Corporal Nathan Cirillo. Our prayers are with you. ABC's Karen Travers has the latest from Ottawa. Karen.
Good afternoon, Michelle. Canada's capital city is getting back to normal today, but this is still a city and a whole nation very much on edge and on high alert. Stephen Harper, Canada's Prime Minister, said today that Canadians will be vigilant but will not be scared.
An incredibly moving scene inside Canada's Parliament this morning. Sergeant-at-Arms Kevin Vickers was greeted with a powerful standing ovation. Members of Parliament and Canadian officials showing their gratitude one day after Vickers stopped a gunman inside that building.
We will not be intimidated. We will.
Flowers and wreaths were placed at Ottawa's War Memorial to honor Corporal Nathan Cirillo, the soldier gunned down while on guard there yesterday.
We're satisfied at this point that one individual was responsible for the shooting yesterday on the Hill.
But so many questions remain about that shooter, Michael Zehaf-Bibeau, whose rampage ended when he was shot and killed. Zehaf-Bibeau was 32 years old, born in Canada. He had a series of minor criminal convictions for drugs and robbery. Canadian authorities had recently seized his passport to prevent him from traveling abroad. That's because concerns are growing here, like in the U.S., about homegrown terrorists. Just 3 days ago, another young Canadian man who'd boasted of his ties to the terror group ISIS and had his passport revoked was shot dead in Quebec after running down 2 Canadian soldiers in uniform, killing one. Authorities say so many Canadians have joined ISIS in Syria, they're now making their own recruiting videos.
Before Islam, I was like any other regular Canadian. I watched hockey.
And today we heard from the mother of Michael Zehaf-Bibeau, who said that until last week she had not seen her son in 5 years, so she couldn't offer any insights into his motive for yesterday's shooting. She also said in a very emotional interview with the Associated Press that she's crying for the victims of yesterday's incident, not her son. Michelle?
And Karen, real quickly, is Ottawa still on high alert because of these 2 incidents?
The city is certainly getting back to normal. There are some roads that are closed in this area near Parliament, but for the most part, those lockdowns, of course, from yesterday are completely lifted. People are getting back to work, and you saw that very powerful scene today in the House of Commons where lawmakers themselves went back to work, a very powerful show of strength and unity there. Prime Minister Harper, though, did say that the whole nation, of course, is a bit still on edge, but they are not going to be scared and they are not going to be intimidated. Michelle?
ABC's Karen Travers reporting from Ottawa. Thank you very much. Today, the War Memorial at Canada's Tomb of the Unknown now honoring another soldier, Corporal Nathan Cirillo, who was shot and killed in yesterday's attack. The CTV's Vanessa Lee has this update from near the memorial.
Well, that feeling of gratitude and camaraderie that we saw in the House of Commons this morning among politicians has certainly spilled onto the streets of Ottawa. Dozens, if not hundreds of people have come by to pay their respects to Corporal Cirillo. You can see a growing bed of flowers behind me there. And there have been people, young and old, here just wanting to pay their respects. We're seeing people wearing hockey jerseys. We're seeing people wearing poppies. There's a lot of silence here. People coming, standing. We know that members of Corporal Cirillo's regiment, about a dozen of them, were here behind me for about an hour. They just stood in silence for about an hour. And really, there's just a somber mood here, even a mood of disbelief that something like that could have happened here in the nation's capital.
Vanessa Lee reporting. And Parliament is back to work today despite the bullet holes and shattered glass inside the building. ABC's Dan Harris got inside the Parliament building and gives us a behind-the-scenes look of where and how the shootout took place.
This building, Canada's Parliament, was on lockdown for almost 10 hours yesterday. Today, we're able to get inside and see where the gunfight took place. The gunman came in through this entryway here where he started tangling with the security guards immediately, who obviously saw that he had a gun. Shots were fired. At this point, the gunman started running down this long hallway. Bear in mind, he's being shot at all the time. I can give you a sense here of how big this hallway. This is called the Hall of Honor. It's a key area in the Parliament. So the gunman's running down this hallway. Here's the incredible part. He runs by these two rooms, this room and then this room over here. These rooms were filled with members of Parliament, and get this, inside this room was Canada's Prime Minister himself, Stephen Harper. So the gunman runs by the rooms. He's being shot at, bear in mind, and he's running all the way down this hallway and apparently looking for a place to hide. He ends up hiding behind this, sorry, we can't go past this point, but he ends up hiding behind this granite pillar on the right. At this point, the Sergeant-at-Arms, whose office is right here, the Sergeant-at-Arms here is a largely ceremonial post, but he does have access to a firearm and knows how to use it. So at this point, Kevin Vickers, the Sergeant-at-Arms, comes out of his office, rounds the corner with a firearm, and goes over there and personally finishes the job, shooting the gunman. He dies here on the scene. So an extraordinary scene taking place here in the Canadian Parliament. It is something this country will not soon forget, and many people say it may change this country.
Dan Harris at the Parliament. At the White House today, Press Secretary Josh Earnest said he could not comment on the suspected gunman, but vowed U.S. support for Canada during this investigation.
Canada is one of our closest allies, partners, and friends in the world, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with them in solidarity. We've been clear that we are grateful to Canada for its steadfast commitment to countering violent extremism wherever it occurs, whether overseas or here in North America. And we're going to continue to work closely with our Canadian colleagues to combat this serious threat. Prime Minister Harper said it very well yesterday. He said that the Canadian people will not be intimidated. They will not, in fact, they will strengthen their resolve and not allow a safe haven for terrorists who seek to do harm. President Obama yesterday offered Canada any assistance that's necessary in responding to these attacks, and our respective national security teams are coordinating very closely, including again today. As the President said yesterday, when it comes to dealing with terrorist activity, it is clear that Canada and the United States have to be entirely in sync. We have been in the past, and we will continue to be in the future.
And back in Ottawa right now, Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper is speaking during the Parliament's question time. Let's listen in.
Obviously, Mr. Speaker, we have been, as I indicated earlier today in the House, looking at our various laws and options under the law to strengthen the ability to survey, detain and arrest individuals who are threats to us. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, I know individual security agencies will also be looking very carefully at the events of yesterday to determine what else has to be done. As you know, Mr. Speaker, the security agencies of Parliament themselves do not report to the government. They report to the speakers and to the boards of internal economy of the two houses. But I know that the RCMP, City of Ottawa Police and others will be working with them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, thanking the Prime Minister, we know that the information that's circulating on yesterday's tragic events is somewhat muddled and sometimes even contradictory. Now that the situation is under control, will the Prime Minister hold a public information session so that everyone can be aware of what has happened?
The
Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, To the best of my knowledge, the police will be giving more information later today on the tragic events of yesterday. Because police investigations are underway, it is up to them to inform the public. And I am looking forward to seeing that information very shortly. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, it appears that the assailants involved in the attacks Monday and yesterday had their passports revoked before they acted. Several other Canadians have had their passports revoked, and because authorities believe that they intended to join radical groups in other countries. What new measures, if any, are being taken in those specific cases? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the police, the RCMP, has indicated that a number of passports have been revoked. Mr. Speaker, this information, however, is not confirmed in this second case, yesterday's case. I will let the RCMP inform the public on this issue. But obviously, Mr. Speaker, we are looking at this part of the situation, and we are very concerned by the fact that there are Canadians who wish to undertake terrorist activities around the world. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, today, as we would expect, security on Parliament Hill has been reinforced. But, yet again, today, this place remains remarkably open, and so much the better for our democracy. As we adopt new permanent security measures in the days to come, can the Prime Minister reassure Canadians that their Parliament, the pillar, indeed, of Canadian democracy, will remain an open place for them? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in all circumstances throughout our history, the government has ensured that we have a safe, secure country to ensure that Canadians feel safe, but that at the same time is free and open. And our departments and our security agencies will continue to act in that way, and that will remain their basic principle.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, we stand here today united in our determination to keep this land strong and free. We are all committed to that goal. But we also know that from time to time we'll disagree on how to achieve that goal. Will the Prime Minister join me in committing that no matter what differences we may have in the days or weeks to come, that we will all approach this complex issue with the respect and dignity it deserves, knowing that, however we sometimes disagree, every member of this House is committed to the safety and security of all Canadians.
Bravo.
Speaker, I'd be happy to see all members of Parliament and all parties unite around the idea that whatever our differences, we're committed not only to the safety and security of Canadians, but to the free and democratic society that we all hold so dear. And Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to remind Canadians at times like this, in spite of the fact that we are considered and are in fact a relatively young country, from the Great Pact of 1867, we have one of the longest unbroken forms of governance, particularly democratic governance, anywhere in the world today, unbroken by war, unbroken by civil disorder or national catastrophe for almost 150 years now. It's a tremendous country that we're all fortunate to be part of, and I know we're all committed to making it better.
The Honourable Member for Papineau.
Mr. Speaker, the essential thing in a democracy is to be able to ask questions, even in difficult circumstances, and particularly in difficult circumstances.
RCMP Commissioner Paulson straight out told Parliament that there were 90 individuals on a national security watch list. How many are there now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would not expect that number has changed radically in the past 2 weeks. Obviously, Mr. Speaker, that kind of information is really in the purview of security information agencies to provide in detail if they think that is appropriate. But the fact of the matter, Mr. Speaker, is there are serious security threats in this country, and in many cases those serious security threats continue to be at large and not subject to detention or arrest. I know that is something that concerns Canadians at large. It concerns the government, and we are working with our security agencies to examine how we can handle that situation.
Mr. Speaker, certain media are reporting that the passport of one of the assailants was revoked, while the passport request of another assailant was refused. It seems that these two assailants wished to leave the country to join extremist groups. Since 2013, this has been a criminal act in Canada. What actions are underway to ensure that those who are in the same circumstances are arrested? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, to add another fact, the RCMP, the police has indicated that they had an active investigation underway on the first terrorist in Quebec earlier this week. However, Mr. Speaker, the reality is that there are Canadians who wish to become fighters for foreign extremist groups. There are some who have already done that, and there are others who wish to do that. This is a major concern for our security agencies, and these security agencies and the police are working together to fight this threat. The Honourable Member for Papineau.
Again, Mr. Speaker, news reports indicate that one of this week's attackers had his passport revoked, while the other's passport application was denied. Both appear to have attempted to leave Canada to join extremist organizations. Well, since 2013, that is an indictable crime. What is therefore now being done to arrest others in the same situation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to repeat my answer, I'm not in a position to confirm all of the statements just made by the leader of the Liberal Party. I know the police will comment on those in the days to come, but the police have said in the case of the first individual, the first terrorist, that that individual was subject to an active investigation, that his passport had been seized and in fact revoked. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that our police and national security agencies are aware of such individuals seeking to become foreign fighters. There are already such Canadians elsewhere in the country, and these agencies are doing with everything within the law to resist and to deal with that kind of threat. And Mr. Speaker, it's our judgment they may need additional tools, and we're examining that matter.
The Honourable Member for Hull-Aylmer. Canada can count on a talented and devoted public service, and today they've proved that once again. Today, as every day, and despite yesterday's tragic events, they are on the job across the country. These courageous men and women are ensuring that our government continues to function. That is their way of responding to intimidation and to violence. Can the President of the Treasury Board explain to this House what measures have been taken to ensure their safety? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
This yesterday was a very trying day for many public servants who, in the face of a situation that none of us had ever contemplated being here, still worked on the public's behalf and on parliamentarians' behalf. I should say that we've been in constant communication with the public service to keep them up to date on the situation as it arose yesterday and as it will arise in the future as well. We will continue to do that, and I believe every public servant should expect that he or she has the ability and the right to work in an environment that is secure and free of potential violence.
The honourable member for Alfred Pelham. Canadian families are very concerned by yesterday's tragic events and by the attack in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu earlier this week. As Canadians return to their daily lives, can the Minister of Public Safety tell us what is being done to ensure the safety of our fellow Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague for her question. As you know, our government has put in place the Act to Fight Terrorism. It has 4 pillars: prevent, detect, prevent, among others, and that is why the RCMP has put in place a strong plan to fight extremism, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to work to ensure that our public safety agencies ensure that Canadians are safe. The Honourable Member for Alfred Pelham. We all agree, Mr. Speaker, ensuring public safety is the first responsibility of this House. However, we are also responsible for protecting basic freedoms. Striking a balance between security and liberty will be our greatest challenge in the coming months. What is the government's plan to ensure that we strike the right balance? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we live in a state where there is the rule of law, so all the measures we put in place will respect Canadian law, and that is why our public safety agencies and our police agencies are working under a legal framework, and it's important for us as parliamentarians to ensure that we clarify the parameters, and that is why we have the intention to move forward to clarify the tools that are available so that the RCMP and other police officers can do their jobs so that Canadians can continue to live in safety.
Mr. Speaker, as we begin trying to comprehend the events of this week, it's become clear that members of the Canadian Forces may have been specifically targeted for attack. Like many MPs, I have a base in my riding, which is obviously at the heart of our community. Can the government assure the House that steps are being taken at bases across the country to ensure security for Canadian Forces members and civilian staff?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
We will continue to take the necessary precautions to ensure the safety of our men and women in uniform and at the bases. I know the Chief of Defence Staff is actively looking into this and taking steps, Mr. Speaker, but make no mistake, we'll remain vigilant against those at home and abroad who wish to harm us.
The Honourable Member for Squamish.
Mr. Speaker, we all recognize the need to ensure public safety, and we all understand that public safety is a primary responsibility of this House. But we are also responsible in this House for protecting our fundamental freedoms. These will both present continuing challenges in the coming weeks and months. How does the government plan to ensure that both public safety and our fundamental freedoms are protected moving forward from the events of the past few days?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we are a state of law. We make sure that all law enforcement agencies and national security agencies are working within the scope of the law. That's why we as politicians and parliamentarians have the duty to provide clarity so that they can work in this environment to keep Canadians safe. That's why this government has the intention to table legislation to clarify those power, Mr. Speaker, so we can sleep safe at night. Thank you.
Canadian lawmakers debating security in that country and also digesting what comes next for the country one day after the violent shooting. You, of course, can keep up with this story in real time by downloading the ABC News app and starring this story for exclusive updates on the go. For now, I'm Michelle Franzen in New York.